Hi guys, and welcome to another video. I'm now in kind of the new backdrop kind of thing. Sorry if this is echoey, because the only pieces of furniture are literally the TV, which is literally in this little corner, a bin here, and the wardrobes. And that's about it. So it might be a bit echoey because there's literally nothing else in this room, but I kind of wanted to start filming in this room. I'm also sat on the floor, so I'm a bit lower, but hopefully when this room is somewhat finished, because there's still a few little painting things that need to be done, and when my desk is moved in, hopefully this will be a bit higher, so you'll probably see a bit more of the pictures up here and so on. But yeah, I'm also just currently sat on the floor. Also, if the lighting changes a bit, it's due to the natural sunlight and stuff, because I'm literally just using that on the floor, and I'm moving backwards because I don't want to get blinded, because where I was sitting the sun was shining directly into my eyes. But anyway, today's video is my reading wrap up so far of this year. I've put it as, I think it's every 3 months or so. I'm just going to do a small little reading wrap up of the 3 months of what I've read. Well, obviously within the 3 months. So obviously this one is from the start of the year in January to now, obviously me filming this, the day this goes up, of all the books that I've finished and read. And then obviously the next one in June will be from April, or if I finish a book between now and April, which I probably doubt will happen since I'm slowly hitting a book slump. But yeah, so my goal obviously this year was 40 books plus an extra few that got added on, which I want to say was around 7-ish books what ended up getting added on as extra that I kind of want to read this year, but it wasn't part of my main 2026 TBR. And I think 3 of the 7 books that got added on have been read so far. So I've got another 4 to go, if my maths is right. Yeah, 4. But yeah, so I've read 8 out of the 40, or 47 should I say. But yeah, my main thing on my Fable app, it says I should try and aim to read about 3 books a month to hit my goal of 40. So it's kind of I need to read more than that, but it hasn't happened all the time. But I've got my 8 books here, if I can pick them up without dropping any of them. But yeah, now I've got to try and put them back down in an order where I can just straight up pick them up. So yeah, in January I finished 3, which were A Murder Before Evensong, Book Boyfriend, and Hopeless, and that they were the 3 I read in January, and actually finished in January. I think Book Boyfriend was the first book I picked up, but A Murder Before Evensong was the first book I finished, because I read it within 2 days in 2 sittings. And so this was the first one I read, because I read this in between reading this one. But yeah, I finished this and gave it a 5 stars, because it was so fast paced for me to read it. I don't know if it was the anticipation of wanting to read it, and then getting so much into it, but this one actually gripped me into reading it and wanting to do it. So I ended up reading it quite fast, and it was really great. And that, but the pacing of the next book in the series, because I've only read the second book in the series yet, kind of went downhill for me, but this was like my first 5-star, and I think it's my only 5-star at the moment, book of the year. But yeah, it's the first book of the Canon Clement mystery series. But yeah, so I read that one. And then, yeah, obviously it was a book boyfriend, which I actually managed to guess something that happened towards the end. Well, it got revealed at the end of the book, but it was something like ongoing throughout the whole of the book. And that, which normally I don't like make guesses about anything like that in a book. Even in, well, I do somewhat in like mystery like books, but I don't in romance books, and this is obviously a romance book. But yeah, and it came true. So this is like the first time I've done that, and yeah. But this was a 4-star and stuff. This one kind of took me like slower to read. But it was about like a 4-star 2 in the spice level kind of thing. But yeah, it was a good book. It's just I kind of obviously knew towards like the ending about something happening or being revealed, so it kind of like just didn't be as shocking because I had already guessed it. So yeah, but there was that one, and then obviously I had to read the last book in the Chestnut Springs series, because obviously I had read the first 4 of this book last year, because the 4th book was one of my blind dates with the book. So yeah, I had to read the final book in that series. So I read Hopeless, which was towards the end of January. I think this one was middle to end. And yeah, it was a 4-star. Most of the books in this series were like 4 or 5. I think there was only 3 out of the 5 books in the series were 5 stars, and then like the other 2 were 4. So this is one of the 4 stars. Yeah, so that one, which I want to say when I did read it, I read a bit at the start, and then as I got into the book more, I started getting hooked a bit more, and getting gripped into the book. It was just kind of slow for me starting the book, which sometimes happens with me. Like I'll start off reading a book and it's like really slow getting into it for me to get into a book, and hard. But when I'm about like halfway through, then I somewhat get into the book. Apart from the first book I read, that one I was like into it from the jump. But yeah, so I read Elsie Silver's Hopeless, and then going on to February. I just realised I said 8, but there's technically 9 books I read, to be honest, by a somewhat technicality, because in February I kind of read 4 books, but I've only got 3 physical books, because of the novella at the end of Off to the Races, which is kind of its own book, but you can't get it in a physical book. But yeah, so there's like kind of that by a technicality. I read 9 books out of 14 or 8. It's because I've got 8 physical books in front of me. I thought 8, but it's actually 9. But yeah, so in February, I think that's also when last month was when I started doing my reading. I done like a reading vlog of some of the Gold Rush Ranch series. I had to try and remember the name then. But anyway, the first book I finished in February, I started it in January but finished it in February, was the second book of the Canon Clement mystery series, which is A Death in the Parish. This one is obviously thicker than the other one was, or is, and that is somewhat a difference in thickness, obviously. But I also rated this a 3-star because I wasn't gripped into it as much as the first one, so I guess I was kind of just playing it on to the first one. Not saying it's a bad book or anything, it was great. I just didn't want to rate it a 5-star, 4-star either, because it also did feel like it was having to push myself to read it a bit more, and pick it up and read it. So yeah, it was also that I do also somewhat judge my books on how long it takes me to read the book. If I can read it fast and I'm gripped onto the book, it's normally like a 5-star. If I'm gripped but it takes me somewhat longer to read the book, then it's probably 4. Or if it takes me fast, if I can read it fast but I'm not as gripped, it's a 4 and stuff. But yeah, I wasn't that gripped into reading this one and into it, and I also didn't read it that fast. So but I think this was the point of, I think at least once every month I somewhat hit a reading slump kind of thing of I've read a bunch, I kind of need to chill a bit, and I think by hitting this point of this book I was kind of getting into the motivation of I have a bunch of books to read this year, I kind of need to crack on and do a bunch of reading. Sorry about the sound, I think there's an aeroplane, I'm not sure if you can hear that. But yeah, so this one was a 3. And then it was off to the races that I read, which I think I was either partway through or something when I started doing the reading vlog, which was in that one. And then also the novella in the back, which is Out of the Gate, which is in this book as well. Which is actually just a little novella at the back of this book, which are my next 2 books that I read. But yeah, Off to the Races was a 3-star. This Gold Rush Ranch series hasn't been my favourite series. I think it's because I'm so hooked onto the Chestnut Ridge series, and I love that series that obviously I am kind of comparing the 2, I think, a bit, which isn't the most fair, but yeah, kind of unfair, the Chestnut Ridge series over the Gold Rush Ranch series, but they're both great. Yeah, Off to the Races was a 3-star, and then I think I read the novella within 2 days or so. I don't know, because it was part of a video, and I think it was how many pages I read in a day. Something determines the pages I read in a day or something like that. I think it was, and I ended up just sticking to them pages during the thing and not reading anymore. So it was either, so I think it only took me 2-3 days to read the novella. It might have been 3. I think. Yeah, 14th to the 16th. So yeah, so I read it over 3 days. But the novella was also a 3-star, even though it was somewhat short. It took me a while to read. But yeah, so there was that one. And then finally in February, I read a photo finish as well. Which is also about the sister of the Chestnut Ridge series men or family. And that, like, their sister is in this one. I think this is also the series that you're meant to read before Chestnut Ridge. But I obviously read the Chestnut Ridge series first and stuff. Or is it the other series that you're meant to read first? I'm not actually sure. But anyway, I read the second book in Gold Rush Ranch series, rated it a 3. I think most of the books in this series have been 3s. So yeah, I did read it in like 4 days, I think, because of the reading video that I done, reading vlog, since I think this book was in that reading vlog as well, which sped up my reading process and how much I actually read at a time. But yeah, I was somewhat gripped into it because of this. It was a sister, and it had some similarities of being like a soldier, of her being with a soldier, and one of her brothers in this book was a soldier, or was in the army or something. He was, yeah, a military hero in this one. But yeah, that was a 3. And then on to March. So far today, this month, I've only read 2 books, or finished 2 books, should I say. I am also obviously partly through another book, but obviously I have not finished it and I'm near the start of it. So if I end up reading that book and finishing that book this month, then great. If not, I don't, but that will be part of June's reading wrap up, or the reading wrap up in June. But yeah, but the next book I read and finished in March was The Front Runner. I think I started this in February and then finished it in March. And that, which is the 3rd book in the Gold Rush Ranch series. And it's another 3. But yeah, I think this one like somewhat gripped me off. Which one was this? Yeah, this one, I want to say it's the one that gripped me a bit more. Or was it the second one? I don't know. One of the 2 gripped me a bit more. But it was kind of just like going through it. But yeah, it's also another 3-star. This one did take me a bit more longer to read and go through and stuff. But yeah, but after I like had read this book, I had started like the 4th book in that series, and then kind of hit a reading slump to the point where I didn't finish the book. And by that point, this book came out, which was a new release a couple weeks ago now. And I wanted to read this one as soon as I got it, which is obviously just Friends. And yeah, it's taken me a few weeks to read it, not gonna lie. I literally finished it last night before filming this, because I'm filming this the day this goes up, and I finished this last night. But yeah, I kind of hit a reading slump, so it was like taking me a while to read this book. And then also, like, I kind of stopped reading the other one when I was like probably not even 20% into it. So I just wasn't reading a bunch. So this one has taken me like a while to read, but this one is a 4-star. I didn't want to give it a 5-star purely because I was slightly into a reading slump when as I started it. Maybe I need to like obviously reread it again when I'm not like fully in a reading slump. So maybe reread it next year and see if my thoughts change on it or my rating changes. But loved the book. It was great. It was also nice to have like the annotated chapter in the back of the book. And that's so that obviously you get the normal book inside it, and then at the back there's an exclusive behind the scenes annotated chapter from the author, and that which was just like great to go through and read, and that which was really cool. But yeah, there was this. But yeah, that was all the books I read so far this month. Or these past few months. I've read 9 out of 40. So let's see how many I can get read by June, in the next 3 months. Hopefully it's more than 9. I at least won my goal for June by like June's reading wrap up that I do then, for April, May and June. I'm hoping I have a few of the classics read that I have to read. Obviously I'm gonna finish the last Gold Rush Ranch book, so hopefully that can be done. I want some more of the Canon Claremont mystery series read. I think there's 3 books left of that one, and one of the 3 is like a novella, like mini novella. So I'm hoping I can get at least 2 books, if not all 3 of them read as well. So what? Let's see if I can also beat 9 books by like, even if it's just by 1, by like reading like 10 books in the next 3 months, and stuff. But yeah, but that were the books I read so far. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next video, which I think is a vlog. Yeah, vlog, because it's Wednesday today. So I'll see you guys Sunday for a vlog, and then see you guys next Wednesday, I think, for a makeup video. I think it is. I might be wrong, but I know there's a makeup video coming next month, which I think is the next video. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, I will see you guys then. Bye!